Welcome to On Top of PR with Jason Mudd, presented by Review Maxer.
Hello and welcome to On Top of PR. I'm your host, Jason Mudd with Axia Public Relations, and we are glad you're here and tuning in to On Top of PR. I want to introduce our new episode. We have with us today Leah Power. Leah has been working with agency leaders and their executive teams for more than 25 years at media and creative agencies in Canada and the United States. Now she's at the Institute of Canadian Agencies, the not-for-profit trade association for agencies across Canada. Leah, welcome to On Top of PR.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
We're really glad to have you, and I'm glad to be here as well. For today, we're going to talk a little bit about procurement and how to connect with an agency. And I'm really excited about that. For full disclosures, we met, I was listening to you on a podcast, and you were talking basically about best practices for using procurement to get better PR agencies. And so with our audience being corporations looking to hire a PR agency, I thought it'd be really helpful to bring your insights on smarts and experience to the table for them. So I've set the bar really high for you. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, you have. And I don't know if they're all my insights, but there's so many great insights out there. And I hoover them up and try to get them out to clients, procurement, and agencies. That's my job.
Perfect. So the first thing we want to talk about is the reason brands and clients are hiring an agency.
Right. Well, that's where you start, right? The client needs an expert, and that's why they go to an agency. And, you know, a lot of what I talk about with clients is then don't kind of be false to that. You know that that's what you need. You know you need an expert service provider. You know you need someone to help you solve your business challenges. You can't do it yourself. You've identified that. So it's up to you to create an environment that agency can thrive in to be the most innovative and most creative that they can be.
That's great. I love that, Leah. And when I'm thinking about hiring an agency or working with an agency, you know, sometimes companies are thinking, well, we could just staff that role in-house. But you mentioned something earlier, and I think it's really important. It's really hard to recruit and develop and retain that expert in an in-house environment.
It sure is. And I think in any capacity, any corporation is going to see that it can be very difficult to maintain that level of expertise within their own ranks. I'm not saying it can't be done if you want to put the cash and the investment and the time and the resources behind that. But when we're talking about agency and the depth and breadth that they bring to solving problems, I don't know how any in-house really gets to the meat of the type of branding or brand understanding and consumer understanding that an agency can bring to the table. I think it's great that you know, some clients are going to try to do that, but that's not really their expertise. And what's really great is in my 6 years, I've really been studying procurement, connecting with procurement and sourcing professionals. And boy, are there a lot of really tenured, transformed is the word that we like to use, transformed sourcing professionals that are like, you cannot do this yourself. You have to, as a corporation, know what it is that you bring to the marketplace and stay out of other people's business. Right. Know when to hire it, know when to make it, and know when to buy it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Bill Gates said, do what you do best and outsource the rest. And so that might be a similar kind of cliche or quote. So Leah, tell us, when is the right time to involve procurement in hiring an outside agency?
This is, I think, crucial. I think it's really important to involve them right from the beginning. of course, I do have some caveats to that. It's important for clients to connect with their procurement department to understand what their role is, to understand what they bring to the table. They're there to mitigate risks. It's a really important role. They're there to ensure that certain policies and procedures that the corporation has are intact throughout the relationship, not only during the search process, onboarding, contracting, and then throughout the relationship to the end of it, if that end ever comes. But I would say in the same vein, it's important for the client to also make sure that procurement, so this is the marketer, the advertiser, the communications department, that they are telling procurement also what their role is and making sure that it's understood why they're hiring an agency, what work it is that they need to do, why it's important for this expert to be their partner, and what challenges and problems that partner is going to be solving.
Yeah, that's good. So, you're making me think about the concept that procurement works for the department who is seeking out a relationship, as opposed to that department having to work under and for procurement in some way. So, our next question that we want to talk about is when is it a bad time to involve procurement?
Well, at the end of the relationship, if you are not working seamlessly hand in hand, and I like to talk about the relationship between the client, the procurement professional, and the agency as a three-legged stool. And you know what happens when you don't involve one of those legs on a stool? It falls over, right? So
Right.
It's a pretty good analogy that they're all equally important and they all have a role to play. They all bring something to the table. So I would say if the last time the agency and the client have connected with procurement was at contract negotiation, and then the next time you're bringing them in is when you want to fire the agency, that's just bad, because procurement has a really special set of skills. And one of those skills that you can tap into is helping you to manage the relationship so that it's on a solid foundation and it's a partner relationship, because partner is how you get to great work that works.
And my cynicism hat is saying, can there really be a partnership that procurement sets the table for and manages versus it being very vendor and transaction like?
Well, and that's where we come to the term of transformed again, right? That's why I love that term, because procurement, and it's not their fault. Procurement kind of came into being for commodities, and they had a very specific set of things that they were procuring, right? Pencils, paper, gas fittings, beef. These were commodities. There were mandatory evaluations that vendors were going into. And it was very easy. Either you ticked the box or you didn't.
Right.
Either you had a number 10 pencil, was going to be X, in a box, 10 in a box of a number 10 that you could ship in 3 days. Mandatory, right?
Yeah.
Mandatory criteria. When you start having to evaluate, and that's your mindset, when you then have to start evaluating expert service providers,
right,
you can't evaluate an expert service provider based on mandatory criteria because there isn't any. It's how long is a piece of string. So when you're the client and you're trying to determine, I guess, what kind of procurement professional do I have in my organization? Is it a transformed procurement professional that's really done the work to understand what it is that I need?
right.
You're my partner. To your point, we work together. We're on the same team, right? Client procurement, we're on the same team. We're trying to get growth. That's our goal. We have different ways of getting it. And we have different, areas that we're responsible for, but that's what we both want.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's all about the collaborative process. It's all about helping the company, the brand get to the end result that they desire. And, somebody told me many years ago that, typically most people will never hire a PR agency or an advertising agency in their career. And the people who do it, most of the people who do it will only do it 1, 2, or 3 times. So there's really no way for them to develop true expertise at this process. Meanwhile, at some organizations, they've got a whole procurement department who should have an expertise in that type of process. And as long as you're not, as long as they're experienced buying things beyond commodities, like you said, staples, pencils, and office supplies, then they should be, a good partner to you if they have that experience.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, Jason. And that's why the client needs to look at the relationship with procurement, regardless of whether they have any, indirect sourcing experience or not, as a partner. And also, right, I'm going to help you. I'm going to guide you. We have to work together, or I'm not going to get what I need in order to do my job. I'm not going to get what I need in order to affect the growth for the company that I need to affect. So it's not impossible. There's a lot of resources out there, but I think that it starts with the client advocating for themselves and then advocating for their client. And I think about it in a lot of the same ways that I think about recruitment. Think about yourself as a hiring manager. You're going to hire someone. You're advocating for people throughout the recruitment process. Depending on what they have to go through, how large your company is, and the process of recruitment, and going through the people department or the HR department, as it were. You have to work with this person, right? You want them to have a really positive experience with your company, because you have to work with them. And so, as a hiring manager, you might take that position where you're going to advocate and make sure that that's a great process for the people that you are interviewing. And a client needs to think about it in those same terms for their agency.
All right, so Leah, this has been very helpful, and I appreciate the contributions here. What are some non-negotiables that the marketing communications department should have for procurement, and that marketing communications department should expect that the agencies will have?
It's a great question, and I don't think people think enough about that. And that really starts with them standing up for what it is that they need. And clients, you need good work. You need quality of work. You need the scope that you need. And you're going to need to advocate those things, because there are going to be forces within procurement that are going to try to pick away at that. And so you have to stand up for that. This is the quality that I'm looking for. And this is the scope that I want. And in the same vein, the agencies need to stand up for that scope of work as well, and say, the price that you want to pay, we can do it for that, but it's not going to be this scope. It might be a lesser scope. And of course, the level of expertise that's provided. And those two things go hand in hand. So you can see how the client and the agency need to work together. We don't want the client just leaving the agency to fend for themselves with procurement. They all should be together and talking.
I've been in that environment where you get turned over to procurement, and procurement starts introducing terms that you already pre-negotiated, and they're like, sorry, it's company policy. And so we had to respond, hey, we'll accept 2 of these 3, but not all 3. You guys pick, And then a month later, we hear back and they're like, well, we're still trying to figure it out. And there was communication breakdown between procurement. And ultimately, as I recall, we walked away from the opportunity because we couldn't get out of procurement and we couldn't get the work started. And it just didn't seem like it was a good fit because of that.
It's a clue, isn't it, to what the relationship might be like. And so that's what I want clients to think about as well, that there are clues that your corporation is giving to the agency along the way.
And along the way, we were seeing a lot of turnover from the organization on the client side. And so that was an additional clue, Leah. So you're exactly right. I mentioned earlier we met because you've got a podcast that you do with my friend Blair Inns Tell us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, Blair and I wanted to do a podcast that, again, addressed that three-legged stool. That was a place where clients, procurement, and agencies could all come and just hear those three groups talk about their journeys, hopefully from procurement aspect, their journey into becoming transformed procurement professionals that are able to effectively source expert services like creative and agencies and PR agencies. So that's what we wanted to deliver. And I think we just dropped our 10th episode. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been really interesting listening to all of these different perspectives. And the theme is pretty much the same, in my opinion, through, I don't know, you've listened to a couple of them, but it is that we're humans. And that's the difference. Again, if we can put kind of just a stamp on what it is that is the challenge, you are buying humans. You are buying human work. You're buying creativity. You're buying innovation. And that's why I liken it to the recruitment process. It's not like pencils. It's human. And so we
people,
need to,
not pencils.
People, not pencils. And we need to be human.
Yeah. That should be the name of your podcast, People, Not Pencils. So anyway, Leah, it's been great having you. If our audience is interested in connecting with you on LinkedIn and otherwise, what's your preferred way for them to connect with you?
I love LinkedIn. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
We'll be sure to put your LinkedIn profile link in the episode notes, as well as a link to your organization. And in addition to that, Lee, what's the preferred way that they connect with your podcast?
So it's really easy. You just go to 20%. I'll run it 20%.com. And that's where all of our episoes are.
And I trust percent is spelt out.
Percent is spelt out. Yeah, I don't think it would get you anywhere.
You can't get a domain with the percent sign in it. So I'll just save people the headache from that. So
thank you.
All right. Lee, thank you very much for tuning in or for joining us today. And I want to thank our audience for tuning in as well, so that we can help them stay on top of PR. And if you enjoyed Leah's expertise and insight she shared today, I'd encourage you to connect with her on LinkedIn, check out her podcast. And as always, if you have a friend or colleague who would benefit from listening to this episode, please do themselves a favor and do me a favor and share it with them. We would really appreciate that. With that, this is Jason Mudd signing off with On Top of PR and Axia Public Relations. Be well.
This has been On Top of PR with Jason Mudd, presented by ReviewMaxer. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and check out past shows at ontopofpr.com.